Final update. Sorry we could not make it. Things came up, my mom said after missing my son's birthday. 2 days later, I got a charge for $7,900. VIP executive box at an NFL game, 3 seats. I reversed it, paused the joint card, and sent, expect contact from my attorney. 5 minutes later, my dad called 14 times in a row. My sister's last text read, we are outside in the rain. I smiled and replied, sorry, we could not make it. Things came up. The fallout wasn't just with them. My sister, who'd always been the golden child, apparently started facing some awkward questions from her friends once word got out about the NFL box seats. She sent me a single venom-filled text, you've ruined my reputation. I hope you're happy. I didn't bother replying. If the truth ruined her reputation, that was her problem. Here's the funny part, though, once the noise died down, once I stopped being the family punching bag and the one always covering their bills, my life changed in ways I didn't expect. The first month after cutting them off, I had money left over at the end of the month, actual savings. I paid off a chunk of my credit card debt, started putting more into my son's college fund, and even booked us a weekend trip to the coast, something I'd been too broke to do for years because apparently I'd been funding everyone else's vacations instead. But it wasn't just the money, it was the peace. My phone didn't light up with constant demands. I didn't have to brace myself for guilt-tripping calls. I started sleeping better. My mornings felt calmer. Even my son noticed. One night at dinner, he said, you're smiling more, Dad. And that hit me harder than anything. Of course, they didn't stay quiet forever. 2 months after the NFL incident, I ran into my parents at the grocery store. I'd half expected some kind of dramatic confrontation, but instead they froze like deer in headlights. Mom gave me this tiny, brittle smile and said, Alex. Dad muttered something under his breath and turned away. I walked right past them. No shouting, no scene, just silence. Because the truth is, I didn't need to explain myself anymore. I'd already said everything that needed to be said when I shut that door in their faces. And as I loaded my groceries into the car, I realized something. They'd expected me to cave. They'd expected me to eventually make peace on their terms like I always had. But this time, there was no going back. I wasn't just done lending them money. I was done letting them rent space in my head. The day I cut them off, I thought I was starting a war. Turns out I was ending one. It's been 6 months since that night in the rain, 6 months since I shut the door on my parents and sister, and in doing so, shut the door on years of guilt, obligation, and quiet resentment. I used to think family was a debt I could never finish paying off, that no matter how old I got or how much I did, I owed them more. I'd tell myself, it's just money. I'll make more. Or, it's just time. I can spare it. But here's the thing, when you give people unlimited access to your time, money, and mental energy, they'll take every last drop and still come back thirsty. And for years, I let them. When my son was born, I swore I'd break the cycle. I wanted him to grow up feeling loved and supported without strings attached, not treated like a walking credit card or a disappointment in human form. But I didn't realize until this year that the only way to break that cycle was to cut off the people who created it in the first place. The silence after cutting them off felt strange at first. No constant buzzing phone, no emergency requests thinly disguised as favors, no subtle digs about how I should be more like your sister or remember who helped you get started. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I started noticing things I'd ignored for years. The way my coffee actually stayed hot in the mornings because I wasn't answering some drama-filled call. The way my weekends felt longer without the shadow of family obligations looming over them. Even the way my house felt different, lighter, calmer, like the air itself wasn't weighed down by tension. I started building things, not just savings, but a life that felt like mine. We went on that weekend trip to the coast, then another to the mountains. I replaced my decade-old couch without wondering if it would be selfish to spend on myself. My son and I signed up for a weekend cooking class, and now Friday nights are homemade pizza nights, just us in the kitchen making a glorious mess. We've also started little traditions, movie marathons on rainy days, early morning fishing trips in summer, bike rides to the diner on Sundays. It's not about spending big, it's about being present. And every time I watch my son's eyes light up during those moments, I know I've finally started giving him the version of family I never had. Do they still try? Oh, absolutely. The most recent attempt came via my mom, who left a voicemail saying, your father's not doing well. He needs his family around him. I called Uncle Mark to check. Dad's fine. Not a hospital in sight. Just another ploy, another performance for an audience they don't have anymore. The old me might have fallen for it. The new me? I deleted the message and went back to helping my son with his Lego set. Here's the thing nobody tells you. When you finally enforce boundaries, people don't just resist, they rewrite history. I've heard through the grapevine that my parents now tell everyone I cut them off over a misunderstanding and that I'm holding a grudge over a single mistake. But I've stopped correcting them. Let them tell whatever story helps them sleep at night. The truth doesn't need me to defend it. And the truth is, I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even sad. I'm free. Greg still checks in once in a while, not as my attorney anymore, but as a friend. He told me that for weeks after the rainstorm incident, my parents kept calling his office demanding to know if we were really going to sue. He never confirmed or denied, just reminded them every time that all communication had to go through him. They hated that, which frankly made me love it even more. Now, the only person who ever calls me about family finances is Greg. And trust me, his hourly rate is one bill my parents will never see. Last week, we were at the park when my son asked out of nowhere, Dad, why don't Grandma and Grandpa come over anymore? I took a deep breath, trying to figure out how to explain it in a way he'd understand. Sometimes, I told him, people make choices that hurt others. And if they don't want to change, you have to protect yourself. It doesn't mean you don't care about them. It just means you care about yourself, too. He thought about it for a moment, then nodded. Like when I stopped playing with Tommy because he kept taking my toys. Exactly. Out of the mouths of kids. That conversation stayed with me because in that moment, I realized I hadn't just changed my life. I was teaching my son that love without respect isn't really love at all. And maybe that lesson would spare him years of the kind of emotional gymnastics I grew up performing. I don't know if my parents and sister will ever understand why I did what I did. Maybe they'll paint me as the villain forever. That's fine. I'm not living for their approval anymore. Because the truth is, I don't regret a thing. If anything, I wish I'd done it sooner. The night I closed that door, I thought I was ending something. But really, I was starting something new, a life where I'm not afraid to say no, a life where my son grows up knowing love doesn't mean endless sacrifice, a life where the people at my table are there because they care about me, not my wallet. And that, to me, is worth more than any family that only shows up when there's something to take. So if they ever come back, if they ever stand on my porch again, whether in sunshine or in the pouring rain, they'll find the same thing waiting for them, a locked door. And a man who's finally learned how to keep it that way.